Well, it's the weekend after the Carlisle Nationals in Pennsylvania, and like most of you, I am motivated to get some work done on the car. So we're in the garage today, and I want to go over a couple of quick things with you folks. When you getting down to this level of body work and paint and whatnot on the car, and you got your glass out, you're going to want to go through the edges, these seams over here, to inspect everything to make sure there's no rust under all of that weather stripping or the seam sealer they put in there. So let me show you a couple quick things, and we'll move on from there. All right, we get up here on a ladder to be easier to see a little bit like this. All right, if you look around this section here, I've already cleaned up with a putty knife and scrapers and got all the seam sealer and stuff all out of these areas. Even in the corners over here, I got a little bit more to get out, but we're getting this area completely cleaned up so I can get some epoxy primer on it. But you want to do the whole lip, all the way around your windows, front and rear, because this is why. What could be hiding underneath some of that seam sealer is some rust. Now I got down to this corner here, popped a big chunk out of here, and you got some surface rust down there. So you're going to want to make sure you get everything taken care of so you can get underneath it all. And make sure you don't have any real rust through in these corners and all the way along your edges. The water and the moisture gets underneath this stuff, and it'll just sit there, and without you knowing it, with the glass in place, it'll just sit there and rust a hole out, and then you wonder why you got water in your trunk. So when you get your car apart to this level, take some time, go through all the seams. Oh yeah, all of them. There's a lot on these cars with the front window and the back. But if you don't, and you put it all back together, and you still have rust, moisture, a place for that to kind of get into, you're not going to be happy in a few years when it rots out. After you got all that seam sealer out of there, you're going to want to address whatever surface rust you may have. And if it is just surface rust, then no big deal. What I did was I took a wire brush and some rust dissolver and metal prep conditioner, sprayed it in there, wire brushed it around a little bit, got it all done, and then wipe it all down, make sure that's kind of cleaned up, it's addressed. Now some of the things you may run into as you're taking your seam sealer off is we have multiple panels come together. Like here you have two, here you have looks like maybe three pieces of sheet metal overlapping, and you end up with a gap. I dug some of that seam sealer out of there, so I sprayed some of that metal prep in there to address whatever rust may have been going on between those. Hopefully it'll take care of that, and when I'm done it'll be epoxy primed, which epoxy primer will seal everything up and keep any moisture from getting in, seal any moisture from getting out. Hopefully we'll have addressed it, but that's what you're going to want to do. If you find any of that surface rust, you're going to want to address it, sand it down. That's what I've been doing, sand it all this smooth, get sandpaper in a little block. When I come across rust, that surface rust like that, and I hit it with some of this metal prep, wire brush it, I'll give it a nice coating, and then you can scuff it up again when it's dry, and you'll be ready for your epoxy prime. Now one other area you might want to take a look at is when you come to spots like this. Now you have a couple panels that overlap here, and right now this has got a bit of seam sealer here. I'm going to leave it alone, it's fine, it's not going to be seen, but there may be lead that comes out across here where they use it to fill in the big gaps, and right down here you can see the difference in the color. That's metal, this dull gray, that's lead. They filled all this in. If you can pick this up easily while you're sanding, or the screwdriver or a pick, and it may extend down here in your car, it depends. If you can pick it up easy, picking at it, you got rust underneath there. You're going to want to get the lead out of the area so you can address any metal rust you have going on. Getting the lead out of here, you're going to want to catch it like some kind of metal pan. You can use a regular propane torch. It melts pretty easily, not a big deal. Then you can go back and fill it in with some good plastic filler that's designed for high stress areas. That's the cleaning up of that lip. Now what's nice is when you get all that done and you get to doing the epoxy primer in these spots, a lot of these areas, they're not seen. You got trim over this, the trunk lid's going to come down, so you don't have to be as dainty and as precise as you would be on the outside or on the body, where you're going to want nice smooth panels. this stuff's going to get covered up. You're going to have, you know, your trim across here. You know, trunklet's going to come down. You want the outer trunklet to be nice, but under here, you know, most days not so much. So this is going to get seam sealer anyway before we get epoxy primer on it. Just a little coat. That way we know that everything's good. Same thing up here. I might get a little coat across here. That way everything is coated, and then we can go on to our final high build primer and then ultimately paint. So quick tech tip for today. I'm going to get some work done in the garage. See you guys soon.